All right, I definitely wanted to get in and talk about this because this is something that has been coming up for so many people, myself included, which is when you feel like you're losing in life. And this can come in so many different forms. It could be like people leaving out of your life, it could be losing money, it could be losing opportunity, losing confidence, the way that you see yourself, losing happiness, fulfillment, whatever it is. Like, a lot of people are going through a lot of loss right now, or they feel like a lot of people are losing friends right now. That's something that I noticed. And I actually, probably in 2021, that was the most friends I've ever lost, like, in a period of time before. I didn't really like lose a lot of friends per se, but people who were close to me over like really weird things. But that's what I want to talk about today, because so many people have been coming to me and they're like, I'm losing relationships, I'm losing this, I'm losing that. I feel like I'm losing money, I'm losing clients, I'm losing traction in my business, I'm losing fulfillment, I'm losing my passion. I don't want to do the things that I used to be passionate about, like my art, my creativity, like all of that stuff, right? But this is what I want to dive into, is this this emotion that we have, this feeling that we have when we feel like we're losing, that we're losing in life or in general. So I don't know how many of you guys were athletes. I have always been an athlete my entire life. And if you were an athlete, and maybe if you weren't an athlete, you've probably heard like losing is a state of mind, right? I heard that so many times, that losing was a state of mind. And for me, when I was an athlete at first, I never understood that, because I was like, losing isn't a state of mind. It's like a scoreboard, bro. Like, either you won the game or you lost the game. But there were those games that like maybe y'all lost like as a team or whatever, but that's the best game of basketball you ever played. That's the best y'all ever played as a team. That's the best y'all ever ran your offense. Like, whatever it is, right? There's always wins in the losses, right? And I think that's what people are always talking about when they say losing is a state of mind, right? And this is something I always talk to my clients about, and I always talk to my Monate team about, is it really a loss? When we lose something, we have to really like wind that back a little bit and dial it back and be like, is this something that I'm really losing? It's all about our perception, right? And when it comes to elevating in life and expanding and growing and becoming more and more yourself and lining up more with what you're meant to do and your destiny, or like whatever it is, right? Your purpose, your gifts, we always start to drop what doesn't serve us. Whatever is no longer in alignment. Aw, thank you so much, Robbie. I love you. Hi. Whenever we're going through this, this process, we start to naturally drop what no longer serves us. It's just part of the process. It's just what happens. And if you've worked with me before, you've been around for a while, I know you have heard me say elevation requires elimination. It's just how it is. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. Is we always ask for clarity, right? We ask for clarities, we ask for signs, we ask for show us the way, we ask for peace, and then we ignore what comes to us when it doesn't come in the way that we want it to be, or it doesn't come to us in the way that we expect. And I talked about this a little bit on the last one, is that we expect everything to come to us a certain way and be a certain way. And, like, if it's not the way that we wanted it to be or the way that we expected it to be, then we automatically reject it, right? It's just always how it goes, because we as humans just have these expectations. We expect it to be a certain way. We expect it to come at a certain time. We expect it to come a certain way. But when we are desiring something, or we're trying to call something in, or we're wanting it, right? Like, we're asking for it, like, show me the signs, like, throw me the opportunity. I want this to happen, blah, 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 blah. And we're talking to God, we're talking to whatever you go, God, universe is the same. When you're talking to God and you're like, okay, like, this is what I want, this is what I desire, like, bring it to me. You are getting the tools sometimes, and you're getting the way, and you're getting the signs and the guidance and everything else. It's just the way that we decide to look at it and the way that we decide to perceive it, right? We think that gaining something means more of something, right? Not less, right? We get confused when we start to see less things, or things that are going away or whatever. That confuses us, instead of us trusting the process. Like, sometimes in the absence of, a person, or in the absence of certain, opportunities, or the absence of a job, or the absence of a person, or the absence of a relationship, whatever it is, we can gain more of whatever else we're looking for, right? Like, we think that when we're trying to call something in, we're only looking for gaining. What are we getting more of? What are we getting more of? What are we getting more of? Like, what's coming in? What's coming in? And when we see things starting to go away and we're losing certain things and they're falling out or whatever, we're like, this is not what I asked for. Like, what is this? Like, I wanted this. I wanted more of this. Why am I losing things, right? It's all about the perceptions. In the absence of certain things, sometimes we do end up gaining more. And it's all about how we decide to look at it and how and what we choose to see, right? Hey, Danielle, it's always what we choose to see out of the situation. Like, there is prosperity sometimes in loss. Like, what happens when we're trying to expand, or we're trying to level up, or we're trying to rise, or we're trying to call in abundance, or we're trying to call in an opportunity, whatever it is. Like, what we're losing, or we think we're losing, the perceived loss, is really what we're gaining, right? Like, we're just making room for the things that we want to call in. We're making room for the abundance. We're making room for the healthy relationship. Like, for example, I'm just going to throw out examples. If you're trying to call in a relationship or something, right? Like, you really want this loving, powerful relationship or whatever it is, and you expect it to be the one that you're currently in, or the person that you're currently getting to know, or the person that you're currently dating, or whatever it is. Like, that could be the situation. Again, this is just an example. Like, we want a loving relationship and we expect it to be with the person that we're talking to, or we expect it to be with the person that we're getting to know. We expect it to be with the person that we're already dating, right? That's how we expect it. This is how we want it to come in, but we're calling it just a loving relationship in general. We're keeping ourselves open to that, right? We're trying to keep ourselves open to that, but we expect it, and it could be an unconscious thing, but we are expecting it to be in a certain capacity, in a certain way. So maybe while you're trying to call in this powerful, loving, connected, elevated relationship, you start to notice that you're slipping away from the person that you're dating. You're slipping away from this or that, and you're like, wait, like, I wanted a more loving relationship. I want our relationship to grow, but you don't recognize or realize, because you're so stuck on it being a certain way, that relationship is falling away, because you are not going to have what you desire with that person. That relationship is not attainable in the capacity and in the container that you guys have with each other. That is why that person is slipping away, because it's opening the door and leaving space for something else to come in, another person to come in that's more aligned, a person who is going to connect with you on that level. So you are getting what you're asking for, you are getting what you're calling in, and you're sitting here thinking that you're taking an L and you're taking a loss, but that's not what's happening at all. It's creating that space for you to call in the right thing that is in the alignment. Does that make sense? Or if you are, for example, and I've seen this happen with so many people, like on my Monate team, like, they tell me this after they've already joined and they're doing well in their business or whatever, but they've been looking for an opportunity. They want to make more money. They want to have a life of freedom or whatever. They want to climb the ladder. They want to be a leader. They want all of this in their job, and then they lose their job out of nowhere. They get laid off. They get fired. Something doesn't work out, and they can't be in this job anymore. And then they flip over because they have all this space and the opportunity to go find something new. And they find this new business that's aligned for them. They find this new job that's aligned for them. They start this and they get all the things that they weren't getting from there. But they just expected it to be from this container. They expected it to be coming in this capacity. They expected it to be coming from this avenue or whatever, right? They're expecting it to be right here. So it's a perceived loss. But then in turn, after time, they realize why they lost that certain thing, so that they can create space for this job, for this opportunity, for whatever it is that's coming in, right? And when it comes to relationships and friendships and stuff like that, it's like, not only do you have to create the room and the space for things, but you need to create the environment and the energy for that thing to be able to thrive, if that makes sense. So for me, like I said, I lost more like best friends this year than I've ever lost or whatever. But those friends that I did lose, like I was struggling with those relationships. I was like, I feel like I have to do the most to let them know that they're important to me. Like, they don't, like, I have to overexert myself for them to understand that, like, I'm their friend and I'm there for them and da-da-da-da. And the energy's not returning. I'm noticing, like, all these things and I'm struggling with it. I'm praying on it. I'm like, what's going on or whatever. And then those two specific relationships are the ones that I lost this year because of something that had nothing even to do with me. And that's because I'm in a space right now that I want to cultivate very powerful relationships, very powerful friendships that are very supportive. They're mutually supportive. You non-judgmental. You can be there for each other. You can rely on them. They're trustworthy. And it's relationships where it's two people or a group of people and you guys are growing together. You're achieving your goals together. You guys are striving for more together. You're uplifting each other. Like, those are the relationships that I know that I wanted. And so it was very hard for me that, like, to lose the friendships that I lost this year. And I was like, damn, like, I lost like 2 best friends this year. Like, that's so crazy to me. Like, and that hurts and I can't believe it. And after everything, you know, like, we've been through and blah, blah, blah. But that is God's work, bro. Like, he was like, oh, you want these kind of friendships? Having that and attaching to these things is not creating the energy and the environment for the relations that you do want to come in, or the ones that you do have that are already like that, to thrive. It is creating space and creating the energy for those things that you want to thrive. I'm going to actually read these questions really quick. Sorry. Thank you for this. You're welcome. You're so positive. Thank you. I used to work with her and she was one of the better parts of my day when she was there, for sure. Oh, Robbie, I love you. I miss you and I love you. Bye. I love you too, Ty. I feel that. Expecting is an excuse with yourself not to grow. Expecting is an excuse with yourself not to grow. I wouldn't say it's an excuse with yourself not to grow, but I'm just saying that when we are calling things in, we have to open ourselves to receive them in a way that we didn't think was happening or was possible before. It's like, we always want something, right? We desire something, we ask for it, we want it to come through, we want to manifest it, we pray for it, whatever, and we expect it to come through in one way. And when it doesn't come in that way, that's when we get to the point of, it's not happening for me. Oh, I'm taking a loss, blah, blah, blah. This is a L. It's not going to come through. But you might be getting handed all these different opportunities and all these different ways and all these different tools for you to actually achieve that and for it to come. And it's just another way that you didn't see coming. So you're perceiving it as a loss. You're perceiving it as it's not going to come through. But really, it's just not coming through in the way that you thought was the right way for it to come through, the expectation that you had for it to come through. You need to be open to receive it in different ways, in different forms than what you thought it was going to be. Like, when I talk to my clients about money, like trying to call in money and expecting money or whatever it is, it's not the expectation of more money. It's being open to the how, being open to receive it in ways that they didn't think possible, like new and exciting ways. Like, it doesn't have to just be through your business. It could be through a different opportunity. It doesn't just have to be through your job. It could be something else that pops up. It could be random checks from different things. Like, you have to be open to receive these things that you're trying to call in a different way, in a different capacity than the way that you expect it and you want it to be there, right? And that's what I'm talking about of losses, and when you feel like you're losing, that it's a perception kind of thing, because you're not really losing all the time. You're just creating space. You're just finding a different way than what you expected. You're just cultivating the energy that you need to supply this desire that it is that you're trying to call in, right? You're literally just quitting too soon sometimes. Like, when it's not how you expect it to be, it's like you could be quitting too soon, because we're just like, we're giving up hope because it's not in the way that we thought that it was going to be, if that makes sense. So when we do that, sometimes we're giving up before the blessing even comes, right? Because it wasn't in that certain way. So we quit too soon. For example, in business, if we want success in our business or whatever it is, we're like, oh, like, I wanted it to be this way and it's not happening this way, and they quit. But there's other opportunity that was there, and there's other ways for it to be successful that was coming, but we weren't acknowledging it because it was a way that we felt like wasn't what we wanted it to be, or but what wasn't what we expected it to be. So we quit and we gave up, and so the blessing never got to come through. So if we desire it, if we ask for it, if we visualize it, if we pray for it, we have to trust the process. Like, you're not losing anything. It's simply the setup for the come up. And that's all it ever is. It is the setup for the come up. And that's always, 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 always what it is. Like, all of it is all interconnected. And I tell my clients this all the time. And like, inside of the Heal Your Shadow collective, in one of the modules, I think it's like the second module, we literally go through that. It's like, how many times did you think that you wanted this one thing and it was the end all be all, and you didn't get it, and you're so disappointed, and you're so heartbroken, and you're like, like, why didn't I get this? And then 2 months later, a year later, whatever it is, whatever time it may be, you get something else in place of that, and you realize why that first thing that you thought you wanted so bad never worked out, because you got this other job that you wanted. You got this other relationship you wanted. You met this other person. You made this new friendship, whatever it is. And it was so much better and so much more potent and so much more transformational and so much more life-changing and positive and everything else than anything that first thing that you thought you wanted had the capacity to ever expand into and be. Like when you look back on those things, you see so many things like, I really wanted things to work with that person, but now they're working with this person. I really get why. Or like, I really wanted that job and I didn't get it and I was so upset, but then I got this job, or then I started this business and now I get why that happened, right? So again, like, you're not losing anything. It's the setup for the come up at the end of the day. And it's like, you can tune into this and you can listen to this all day and be like, oh, that sounds good, blah, 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 and be inspired with it. And that's all fine and good, right? But are you going to apply this? Like, are you going to take what comes with all this? Are you going to take what you're hearing and stuff like that and actually apply this into like your real life actual scenarios when they come into play, right? Like, that is where my job ends in this and your job begins in this, right? So when you do start going through your everyday life, I mean, like, let's be real, we all take perceived L's every single day. Like, something happens and we're just like, ugh, like, why did that happen? Or something makes us mad, or we get upset about something and we think it's an L, or we think we're losing something. We're losing money. We're losing a person. We're losing our grips on something. We're losing our control of something, right? Like, that always happens to us multiple times a day. So this is your challenge, is when you are facing loss, I want you to surrender and trust what's to follow. Like, I want you to sit in and be like, okay, like, I didn't get this and I understand why I think this is an L, but this is only opening me up to a bigger expansion. This is only opening me up to something bigger. This is only opening me up to cultivate the energy that I need to call in something that's even better. Like, it's always, if not this, then something better. And I operate out of that all the time because I'm a human at the end of the day. And yes, I talk about all this stuff. And yes, I heed the lessons with everything that I go through, but I am a human at the end of the day. And I do want things a certain way sometimes, and I get really, like, God slapped me in the face and he's like, girl, you thought you was going to get it this way? No, it's coming this way. You need to open yourself up to receive that. And I have blocked a lot of my blessings. I've quit a lot of things early. I've let go of things. I've released them. I've been like, this isn't for me, just because it didn't come the way that I expected it to come, right? And so this is, again, like, what I love to do is just take my lessons of what I understand and what I learned through these things and regurgitate them back out to you. Is just not quitting before the blessing has time to come through. Like, all of these things that we think are losses, we are just choosing to perceive them as losses. We have absolute control over how we see things. We have absolute control over how, like, what we accept as truth. And we need to stop living in these limited stories, these limiting mindset, these limiting whatevers, you know what I'm saying, of like, this is what it is and shit's not working out for me and blah, 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 and be like, oh, that didn't work out, something better is coming. Oh, I just lost this, or this is out of my life now, this is creating space for something else. Like, this is the setup for the come up. And that is the space that we need to continually operate in when we feel like we're taking these L's, when we feel like we're losing the money. Like, maybe we're losing money in something or an investment or whatever, but it's opening up a door for another investment. Maybe we're losing opportunity in a job or whatever because we're meant to go start our own business or do something else. Like, open yourself up to receive the signs and the guidance and the tools and everything else, because it's going to come to you in ways that you don't expect. But when you're so close off to it and you expect, or not expect, but you're perceiving everything as a L or a loss, that's when the blessing doesn't get to come all the way through. That's when the things that you're trying to call in don't get to come down into your reality. So that is my challenge for you this week and for like the rest of your life, is when you feel like you're taking an L, tell yourself, if not this, then something better. What is this creating space for? What can I take this opportunity of this being gone? What am I creating space for in this? Is this an opportunity for me to go do A, B, or C? Really question yourself and question what's going on in your life when these opportunities come to you, because these aren't L's, they're opportunities. They're, again, creating the space. They're opening up doors for us. It's never an L. Like, they're only perceived L's. They're only perceived losses, and that's what we choose to believe. So change your perception, switch it up, and start looking at it as an opportunity. Whenever there's a loss that comes through, what is this an opportunity for? How can you choose to look at this differently? And what can you think about you're creating space for? Or what can you use this tool for, right? So that's all I have for you guys. Nothing is a loss. It's all perception. I hope that this was helpful. If it was, be sure to share it and let someone that really, really needs this message listen to this. So hopefully it can help them out in their journey as well. I love you guys.